Welcome, everybody, and welcome to the penultimate in the Somatic Shift series. So, this is quite a historic moment. We've only got the two more remaining in this particular series, this one and next month. And that's a whole year of events that cover off a few of the skills that are kind of appropriate to share in a context like this from the accredited diploma in body into coaching from our training here. Hope you've enjoyed if you've been to a number of these. And for those of you who's the first time here, great to have you here. Just by show of hands, who's is it? For whom is it your first time here? Oh, that's a grammatical tricky one. Great, lovely. Wow, loads of people. Fantastic. Out of curiosity, who here is already a coach? Maybe just, yep, wondering that. Cool. Who here is brand new to the world of coaching? Okay, yeah, great. So about half and half. Lovely. That's what we would imagine. We have half and half in our trainings. It tends to be on the course. Half people who are already experienced, people who are brand new to this. That's wonderful. And who's a Somatic already? Just part of the Somatic School community. Much fewer of you this time. Okay, cool. But good to have you here nonetheless. Bethany, Edith, and Elena, of course. Cool. And maybe others as well. If I've missed you, I apologize so much, but it's great to have you here. So welcoming everybody from the chat as well. It's so good to hear from a few of you here, from Antwerp in Belgium, from Tuscany, from Norfolk, Poland, the Netherlands. Wow, from really all over. This is fantastic. UK, Berkshire, fantastic. Helsinki, Portugal, love it. Great to have you with us. I wonder, maybe before, you're going to be hearing a lot from me today, and you're also going to be getting an opportunity to practice later. So as much as we'd love to make this as close to the experience on our training here at the Somatic School as possible, we only have a short amount of time. And of course, you've come to learn some things, and maybe something new, maybe something familiar, but from a different perspective. I'll be sharing a lot, but we want this to be as interactive as possible. So in the spirit of that, maybe I can invite anyone who would like to share, maybe just, what inspired you to register for this particular event today? We're here at an event where today we're going to be looking at it's a helping hand, working with supportive self-touch within our body into coaching session. So what inspired you to join this particular event? Maybe we take a few shares before we dive in, just to hear from some of you. Anyone who feels. Yeah, Bethany.
I registered for this and wasn't entirely sure that I would make time to attend. But I'm here because I just finished one of the most challenging coaching sessions I've ever done. And so I'm here for self-care for myself.
Great, Bethany. Well, you've come to the right place. Today, these last two Somatic Shift series events are really geared towards the nourishment phase of these sessions. So for yourself today, if you do stick around for the breakouts later, I'm sure you'll find some resource and nourishment. So I'm glad you're here. Thanks, Bethany. Yes, Monica, we'll come to you.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, I just want to share that I'm really interested in this approach because I'm a holistic therapist and I work with people, and touch and breath is involved all the time. So I'm really curious to see your perspective, and also for myself, because I like to care about myself. So thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you, Monica. Good to have you here. Wonderful. I'm loving this dual, in service of others and also some self-care too. It's great to see that, it goes both ways. So that's
Absolutely.
Great. Yeah, lovely. Good for you. Anybody else would like to share? Take one or two more if you want. Yeah, Genevieve.
Hi. I am an American living in England for 20 years, and I came over as a massage therapist. And the cultural relationship to just the word touch was very different between the two places that I was living in. And I've since become a coach. And so I'm very aware of my own relationship to touch and what makes sense to me, and then my relationship to touch and how many other people have very different relationships to it. And so I'm really interested in, and I've participated in a few of your events before, so I'm really looking forward to integrating further the idea of touch and how it works with supporting people, including myself. I'm a people too. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Good to have you here. And actually, you know, you've just inspired me there. We'll come to you, Alexandra, maybe one more share, and then I'll open up because that's just made me think of a little prompt for the group. So yeah, let's Alexandra, where have you gone? There you are. Go ahead. Yes.
It's my spot. Okay. Hi everyone. I'm a relationship coach, and I have realized how much we are disconnected from ourselves and how much it impacts our relationships. So I'm still looking for to broaden my toolkit for my clients, and also I try to practice some this to help myself as well, and then I implement into my coaching practice.
Great. Fab. Thank you very much. Well, wonderful. Thank you very much for sharing. And it's great to hear from all of you. And I hear there's a theme here around, like, of course, naturally, I suppose that's what's drawing you to this event today, the concept of touch. So I just want to open up to the group. And yes, Kirsten, just to mention this, is you are going to practice a bit later on. So just to open up to the group, like, what comes up when you think about touch in the context of, you know, a helping conversation? So, you know, coaching, therapy, other practitioner sessions. Like, what comes up for you? Just as an open question. Let's see. Please share that in the chat. We'd love to just kind of get a few of the get a bit of a check in on where the group is currently at in terms of holding this particular topic. I'm curious. So yeah, a reading mechanism. Wow, great. Lovely. Oh yeah, I can touch on that a bit later. Self-regulation and awareness. Wonderful. Yeah. Powerful for resourcing. Great. Deeply connected to trust. Wonderful. Connecting to self and your own body. Thank you, Justin. And Patricia, self-therapy and comfort. Yeah, wonderful. Okay, great. Katie, powerful for calming my nervous system. Lovely. Well, I think we're kind of moving in the right direction. So let's dive in, and I say the right direction. Here at the Somatic School, we believe in sort of very non-linear processes of learning and change methods. So the right direction is the direction that's wanting to emerge, we could say. So let's dive into this then. So as I mentioned, this is the penultimate in the Somatic Shift Series event here for the Somatic School. Of course, we'll probably do some other series in the future, but for now, I'm very happy to have you at the second to last event for this. My name is Nathan Blair. I'm the founder of the Somatic School. Somatic School being the UK's first ICF accredited somatic coach training provider, and the world's first somatic coach training provider to be awarded the ICF's new level 2 accreditation when those were released a few years back. We were also just last year, I won't be able to say last year for very long now, but yeah, just last year, we were recipients of an honorable mention for the Distinguished Coach Education Provider at the ICF's Impact Awards 2024. So we're very, very blessed and grateful for those acknowledgements and recognitions. And you know, what is the Somatic School all about? Well, really, I mean, I wrote an article recently, actually. I wish I had the link. Maybe Elena, you might be able to drop it into the chat if you have it, about re-inhabiting our organismic existence. And at the Somatic School, we really are working with somatics, working via the body, because through our body, through our sensory perception, sense perceptions and sensory capabilities, we're actually able to support really the emergent process of self-organization. So as body-oriented coaches, we are really stewarding intelligent unfolding. All complex living systems, which human beings are an example of, self-organize. And as coaches, we can learn how to support that in others. Some of the skills that we've been sharing on the Somatic Shift series point us in that direction. And of course, if you want to learn more about how to do that more and with more depth, or at least more rigorously, let's say, and easily, and perhaps effortlessly, in a sense, that's kind of what we were working towards, then yeah, you can learn more, as Elena has shared her contact details. And at any point during this event, if you want to book a call with Elena, our course consultant, you're very welcome to. As I mentioned, if you were booking a call with Elena, that would be to talk about our accredited diploma in body-oriented coaching, which is our flagship program here at the Somatic School, where you too can learn to become a body-oriented coach should you want to. Okie dokes. So today at this event, I'm just going to actually ask, if I may, that everyone just put themselves on mute. A few of you, I think Hill maybe, and maybe a few others might be off mute right now. If I can ask you to pop yourself on mute, that would be fab. Thank you very much. Okie dokes. So today, what we're covering today. So we're going to understand supportive self-touch as a way to stabilize and integrate moments of shift. We're going to learn to track spontaneous self-soothing gestures as signs of emerging nourishment. We're going to explore how to invite clients to stay with supportive touch as a resourcing practice. And then we'll probably do this a little bit earlier in the event, actually, introducing Hakomi verbal experiments as a way of deepening into what the touch might be saying, so to speak. And then practice offering attuned client-led language to amplify safety, connection, and internalized support. So we're really working in a client-led, empowering way here and giving you an opportunity to practice the skill that we're exploring today, which is spontaneous self-touch. And so if you stick around to the end, we'll have an opportunity for you to go into breakout rooms and practice that for yourself. Just briefly, before I share that next slide, here at the Somatic School, thanks Elena for sharing that article link, by the way. Here at the Somatic School, we are drawing on several established and respected modalities. As with almost all modalities that kind of have a lineage, we're all standing on the shoulders of giants. We're kind of taking what's come before and then integrating or reworking things into something novel. And one of those established and respected modalities is that we draw on is called Hakomi. By show of hands here, who's heard of Hakomi? Of course, our Somanauts will have, but anyone else? Yeah, cool, great. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Hakomi, it was developed by someone called Ron Kurtz. And Hakomi is a body-centered therapy. Primarily, it's a kind of form of body psychotherapy. And some of you, it sounds like, are body workers and somatic touch practitioners. Ron Kurtz was very inspired by people like, or practitioners like Carl Rogers, Eugene Genlin, who created the focusing approach, but also others like Moshe Feldenkrais, who created the Feldenkrais method. And so his work, whilst we don't draw on all aspects of the Hakomi modality, there are some that we're going to play with today as part of this particular skill. And in Hakomi, there were instances where touch is brought into the process, quite inspired by Feldenkrais's work, which is all about, which is a very powerful somatic movement modality. Now, here's a little quote by Ron Kurtz, because I think this really speaks to something at the heart of the Hakomi method, and also something that body-oriented coaching very much aligns to in many ways. He says, I'll read this out to you. He says, if you want to help someone, turn the person inward towards experience. Don't turn them inward for explanations. Don't ask them why they feel that way. You're wrecking the process right there. You are taking the ship ashore. Don't ask for explanations. You don't need them. You don't need anything. It's not your problem. It's a funny way of saying it. Just turn them inward towards their experience. You don't need to understand a thing. So this is an interesting idea, because a lot of the time as coaches, maybe feel free to share in the chat if you relate to this. We can often find ourselves working extra hard in coaching sessions, trying to follow the narrative, the story, the various details of that, wanting to kind of keep an eye on the arc of what's being shared and how various things may connect, or how we might be able to offer quote unquote powerful questions that support clients to kind of have deeper awareness or reframe or things like that. And sometimes it can feel like we're in a sort of almost like it's quite a cognitive load at times, and it may even feel a little bit like that we're working quite hard, and sometimes the clients can become a little bit frustrated as well, feeling like they're working quite hard too. Has anyone had that experience? And by the way, a card-carrying member of this club, I've had many an experience like this, and so I see there Heidi, Sarah, Bethany, yeah, and somebody unmuted there, I think. Feel free to jump in if you. Okay, maybe not. Yeah, so one of the things that's interesting about these experiential methods, body oriented coaching, we're drawing on, really it's primarily an experiential approach to coaching. And quite often we don't actually need to really be fully into the detail of what's being shared. It's important to maintain following what's being shared by the client. So it's important for rapport and for trust, and also so that we are actually listening. But what we find in these body-oriented methods is that what's far more insightful, more often than not, at least in our experience, is is to turn people towards their experience. So in our experience, turning people towards their experience is a very powerful method of accessing that which is not already known. And it's from that place that often the next right step emerges within a coaching session. And we kind of trust that the clients hold wisdom within, and that at the very least, for the next right step, quite often the body holds the lock and key solution to what's been irking our clients. That's a very common experience. Anyone here work with somatics that's found this to be true for yourselves? I'm wondering, maybe something different. Feel free to share in the chat if your experience is different or the same.
It's 100%. Because every time I try to help them make meaning, it's bullshit, it's just, but if I just, do the reflection and do some repetition of the words that they use, where they're going with it and what they come to in their deep, dark awareness is, I never could have guessed that. I never would have known that because I don't have their perspective on it, So I'm always confounded and delighted when I go, oh, see, look what happens when you keep your mouth shut. You actually learn more.
Wow, cool. Love that. Anastasia, is it? Yes.
Yeah, Anastasia. Yeah.
Anastasia. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Great. So thank you so much for sharing, Anastasia. That's wonderful, and some great reflections that seem to echo, I think, some of the others in the chat here as well. Something here about from Genevieve about learning a lot, leaning a lot on meaning when I'm tired or stressed. Sign that I've lost sight of my own trust in the client's innate world building and self-structuring mechanisms. Wow, beautifully language there. And Sinem also encouraged them to take the lead of their body rather than the mind, which is sort of autopilot. So letting the body take the lead. Nice. Okay, thank you. Great. Yeah, lovely. And Kirsten said here is in ISP a lot about reflecting and allowing. So that's very, very akin, very similar here. Okay, cool. So let's get into something else. You just saw a flash of the piano, so I'll explain where that comes from. We're going to be exploring something here. When we're talking about Hakomi, the Hakomi method, we draw on a number of skills from Hakomi within body coaching, and Ron Kurtz had a big emphasis on the idea of clients coming into kind of a mindful state, mindful awareness of their experience. Now, we might think about that as simply sort of tracking our own experience, interoception, cultivating embodied self-awareness, really often asking the client, just to simply notice what's happening in the here and now in primary subjective experience, in a client's experience, what's happening right now and now. And now what's happening? And now what are you noticing? There's a spirit of this, right? And that's really, I think, what Ron Kurtz is talking to in mindfulness. And there is a reason why he believes that working in with a mindful approach, a kind of this kind of awareness of our experience in the present moment is important. And he tells this lovely little story, and I think this illustrates it well. So I'm going to ask you a question for each of these slides. And yes, this is a slightly leading question. I am taking you in a particular direction with this, but play along. So if you're carrying a piano and somebody was to place a P on top of a piano, would you feel the weight of the P? Would you be aware of the presence of the P? Yes or no? Maybe sharing in the chat now. No. It's like pantomime in a way. It's very much great. So yeah, no, we're all agreed. No, we wouldn't. Conversely, if you were holding or carrying a feather and somebody was to place a pea, like a frozen pea, on top of a feather, would you be aware of the presence of the pea, or feel the weight of the pea? What's your thesis? Yeah, funnily enough, it all depends on the weight of the pea, really, doesn't it? but yes, maybe a bit, exactly. And in fact, interesting, there might be something in the fact that yes, but maybe subtly, but certainly more, you'd feel a difference, right? Says Dole here. You'd feel a difference a little. So you'd certainly feel it more than you would if you were carrying a piano and somebody placed it on the piano. So what Ron Kurtz was kind of pointing to here is that in a particular mindful state of awareness, where we're just tending to our experience just as it is, and we're just noticing what comes, that there's a certain kind of sensitive attuning and sensing into, we can really become aware of even the most subtle of I'll just pop you on mute there. Even the most subtle of sense perceptions that give way to insights and maybe profound learnings about ourselves. So bringing this curious, sensitive, patient attention to our entire organism is one of the ways that we're going to be exploring when we look at this skill, because this is important for gleaning these insights. Now, I just want to check briefly at this point. Can everybody hear me okay? Somebody put something in the chat just mentioning is it right? Yeah, okay, cool. I'm going to check. Cool, lovely. All right then. So good. Let's move on. I want to make sure that we have time for practice here. So one of the ways that we can work in those particular states of consciousness or awareness, that sensory, perceptive, that sensitivity to our sense perception, is through something in Hakomi that's known as verbal experiments. Now, in body-oriented coaching, we work with three kinds of verbal experiments. We have verbal experiments that work with resources. We have verbal experiments that work with core implicit beliefs. These beliefs that are held outside of our conscious awareness. Maybe we've held them for months, sometimes years, sometimes a lifetime. And we can work with those in very subtle somatic ways, gentle and nourishing, but to really support us to kind of work directly with beliefs, which is a very common thing that we often work with our coaching clients. Clients bring in certain situations that are coming up for them that kind of had their roots in a core belief that maybe doesn't serve them, a limiting belief, it's sometimes called, right? Okay, so we have verbal experience for resources, core beliefs, and for self-support. Today, in today's event, we are going to be specifically looking at this final one for self-support, because these last two somatic shift series events are in the latter stages of the session. That's kind of where we've moved to. We're in this nourishment phase of our coaching session, where felt shifts have occurred, insights have emerged, and now there's this sort of self-organizing that's happening. And what we aim to do at this point is support that and in a number of ways, and also to support what Rick Hansen would call neural integration as well. So really having that become not just a fleeting state change, but an enduring neural trait. And so we support this kind of self-organizing and that expresses itself through this nourishment that we'll be looking at in this skill. So this is the skill we're looking at. It's called supportive self-touch. And it's really a useful way to be working with the nourishment that typically naturally emerges in our clients towards the latter part of a session, although it could happen at any point during the session. It depends what we've been doing with them. It tends to happen after some process work in which they have experienced a shift, as I mentioned. And we're really thinking here about supporting them to stabilize and integrate this new way of being in the world, all these new experiences that they've had. Often these experiences provide evidence for new possibilities or fresh and novel experiences that can become a resource for them later on. So in these moments, it's helpful for us to be tracking our clients, particularly for what we're looking for here with this skill is self-soothing gestures. Yeah, or these kind of gestures or touches that naturally arise in the present moment. Could be something like stroking the hair, placing a hand on the heart or chest, leaning their head into their hand in a kind of relaxed and restful and kind of content way, lying back and closing their eyes and sort of satisfied and sort of satisfaction, appreciation, or just like, soaking in the experience that they're having if it's typically this is a positive one. And so endless examples of what this could be. But as clients are doing this, what we might want to do at that point is to invite them to stay with that just for a moment and really stay with this supportive self-touch, and what we can work to integrate that. What it is basically is inviting clients to use how we're going to explore it today anyway, is rather than a self-touch that emerges naturally, which is the best kind of supportive self-touch to work with this skill with, or to use this skill for. Here we're going to be working with inviting some supportive self-touch and then working with that. So while it's almost always best to work with it when it emerges naturally, because that's really capturing a moment and supporting this integration of that experience, here it's just as nourishing and just as resourcing to invite a client to bring a hand to the body in a way that feels optimally soothing and supportive for them. And then we're going to often this touches a particular message for the client. And so as coach, we're going to offer back to the client this particular message in the form of a Hakomi verbal experiment. And so that's what I'm going to show you exactly how to do now. And then you will have an opportunity to go and practice it. So the steps to this are as follows. First, we're tracking a spontaneously occurring self-soothing, self-supporting gesture or touch. Or, as is the case for this breakout, we're going to invite it. So we're going to invite the client to place a hand somewhere that feels particularly self-soothing, self-supporting. This is also flies in the face of some helping professions that would suggest that self-soothing is a kind of problem to be overcome, where actually what we're saying here is, and this is very much akin to how Steve Hoskinson, the founder of Organic Intelligence, would speak to this, which is that these self-soothing moments of touch, they're what Steve would call postcards from home. This is our biology basically sending this organizing, resourcing, self-regulating information unconsciously. We place a hand somewhere, and we're not even conscious we're doing it, but it supports the system overall. And we want to help support anything that's supporting the organism. That's kind of our gig here, right? So that's step one. Step two, invite them to stay with this supportive self-touch. And then we might ask, as you feel into that hand on your chest there, or that kind of holding of your arms that you're doing exactly as it is, what might it be saying to you? What might this touch, this particular contact, be communicating with you in this moment? And so we're asking the client to sense into the possible communication, the message there. Just to mention, Yanya, you're off mute. You're very quiet right now, but I just mentioned you're off mute, so you might want to put yourself on mute there. Cool. So yeah, that's what we're inviting at this point. Step three, we're then gonna offer the client's words back to them. That might look like saying something like, would you like me to say those words back to you? And just notice how they land in your world, or just notice what happens as you hear those words played back to you. Would you like me to say those words back to you? So if they say yes, that would be great. Let's see what happens. Wait for the client's signal. So they're going to come into a state where they can receive the words that you're about to share. And then gently repeat the client's exact words back to them. Exact words is important because the words, and maybe even the tonality with which they shared those words. And then invite the client to just report what happens in response to this. Notice what happens when they don't need to do the work of even verbalizing those words out loud. They just simply allow the touch to be communicating this and receiving that communication played back to them. And just notice what happens in their organism as they do that. Yeah, that's the idea. Simple, those 3 steps. Again, in summary, we're tracking spontaneous occurring self-soothing, self-supporting gesture or touch, or in this case, inviting it. We're going to invite clients to stay with the supportive self-touch and invite them to share what they sense the touch is communicating to them. And then we're going to invite the client into mindful awareness and offer the client's words back to them. And we're going to create space at that point for the client to report what's happening in response. So at this point, as coach, we really want to do, as Anastasia said earlier, we want to kind of stay quiet, like offer the words and then just fall quiet as coach, allow the client to share, what comes up in response to those. And just simply, to use, I think it was Kristen who said, allowing and reflecting. We can just letting them to report and just reflecting back some of that gently, just saying, oh, you're noticing this or you're sensing that, without embellishment, without paraphrasing, if you can, just simply reflecting back what you hear them say as they report on their experience. A little bonus, if you have time and if you want to, you can share potentially as coach the words that come for you. If you mirror that touch, if you yourself do the touch on your own body, we can then share, the words that came for me when I felt that touch with this. And then we potentially say, would it be helpful to hear those words, and see if that has any effect for them. And maybe they do, maybe they don't. That's a little bonus you can do. For now, for today, probably stick with those top 3. And if you want to try that last one, you're welcome to. So feel free to take a little screenshot or take a photo of this slide here. May help you when you come into your breakout rooms in just a moment, and you can kind of review it over. And we're gonna practice in just a moment. Before we do, if you want to keep exploring, if you'd like to learn more about enrolling on the accredited diploma in body into coaching and looking at becoming a body into coach yourself, just type yes into the chat here. Elena's here, or one of our other course consultants will follow up with you with next steps to having a conversation, understanding the fit. We have a proper conversation with anyone who's curious and interested to enroll, and we really want to establish. We only have 17 people in every group, and that's a very small number. And so, of course, we can. Whilst anyone is welcome to enroll, we can't help everybody because we haven't simply a capacity based, we only have a certain limited capacity. So, let us know if you're wanting to have a conversation, and we will establish fit on the call with you. Okay, cool. So that is not the right, sorry, 1 second. I'm just showing you my supportive self-touch. Doing this on the fly here. There you go. Okay, cool. So this is how it works. Now, can everyone still see the screen share? Let me just check. Yes, you can. Yeah, cool, lovely. This is what you're going to be doing in a breakout room. So you are going to just do it one way. So only one person's going to be the coach, one person's going to be the client. You'll be in groups of 3. Not everyone's going to join a breakout, so you might just find yourself as a pair. First of all, the coach is going to invite the client to use their hand or both hands to offer themselves the most optimally soothing and supportive form of self-touch. Then inviting the client to share the message that this contact has for them, and offer it back as a verbal experiment. So offering the client's exact words back to them. Partner coachee in this instance, you are going to basically feel into the superlative self-contact and get it just right before you share with the coach what the message you think that this touch has for you. What's this contact communicating with you? And then tracking how the words land when they're offered back to you. If you're in a group that has a 3, then when you come to the reflection time, coach self-reflects, and the client shares on their experience, and then the observer shares whatever you noticed, and you just reflect together. So you're going to have in breakouts, we're going to do 10 minutes for the supportive self-touch, with then just a couple of like 5, just 3 minutes to kind of reflect upon amongst yourselves, just to kind of wrap up there. So like 13 minutes in total. And I'll be popping you into breakouts. Let me just take this time while I'm opening up breakouts for anybody to ask, is there any questions about what you're doing in the breakout room itself? Anyone got any questions about what they're actually doing in the breakout room? No, okay, cool. All right, great. So groups of 3. Wow, exactly 3 in every room. Perfect. We have one more coming in. Okay, so we'll just make sure that that person's in the room as well. Okay, great. There you go. And I'm opening the rooms now. So we see you back here in 13 minutes. Yeah, you choose who wants to be coach, who wants to be coachee. See you soon. All right. Welcoming everybody back. So we'd love to, one quick thing before I hear from each of you, I'd love to hear some reflections from your breakouts. And also it's so lovely to see so many of you now on the screen. Of course, up to you if you keep the cameras on, but it's nice to see your faces. Yeah, I forgot to mention at the top of the hour that we do an after hours thing here for any reflections or questions beyond the hour itself. So just know that we have a bit more time. If you don't need to jump off at the top of the hour, you can stay with us for a little bit more. In the meantime, I'd love to just take maybe 1 or 2 reflections. Now, Lucy was just sharing. If you still feeling compelled to share, then yeah, just how was the experience for you? Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I was with Cheryl. Lovely to meet you, Cheryl. I found it such a short exercise, really more powerful than I expected. And the biggest feeling I have was this gratitude, awareness that my body has been doing these things all my life without my awareness of it. And just this feeling that, I haven't been alone all this time. And my body, my amazing body, has been doing the things that I needed to feel safer. And so I felt moved. I could have cried, I think, if we would have had any longer together, which would have been a good release, I know. But yeah, really powerful. So thank you.
That's really beautiful. I feel moved hearing you share that, Lucy. So thank you for sharing with us all. Yeah, really special. Yeah, beautiful experience. I see a few in the chat. Would anyone else like to share? Maybe one more, and then we'll do some more in the after hours bit. Yeah, Cheryl 100% agrees with that, Lucy, and Josie's yes to that. Oh, there might be something else. Yeah. Yeah, anyone else? Well, I'll tell you what, there'll be more opportunity to share in just a moment. I think just to kind of wrap us up then, first of all, hopefully you had a great experience there. That's supportive self-touch, something that we would tend to do towards the end of a session, or after any point that there's been some sort of shift, or anytime you track some self-soothing, self-supporting gesture or touch that the client's doing. There are many, many other skills here at the in the accredited diploma in body into coaching. We've got some of these to name a few. Now, of course, this isn't all about skills. It's not just about kind of adding to your toolbox, although that's a dimension of it, so to speak. I'm almost loath to use the term toolbox, but we're really developing a way of being and a way of creating conditions for self-organization to emerge. We're creating conditions for life to thrive, really. And life wants to move, towards growth, healing, and wholeness. And there are certain conditions that can support that. Most of them very well supported by science. In fact, somatics is is quickly becoming kind of almost like the norm, or increasingly there's a sort of an idea of bringing more somatic approaches into the helping professions, because we can't really go backwards with what we know now, our understanding of the nervous system, etc., so on and so forth. So it's an exciting time to be doing this if you are feeling called. And if you are feeling called, have a call with one of our course consultants, Elena or Caro. You can just type yes into the chat box now if you'd like to have one of the course consultants reach out to you with next steps, just to share a bit more on what that might look like for you in terms of finding out how you too can become body image coaching part of our Somanauts community. This is really a movement of which the Somatic School is just contributing one small piece to, but we're really part of a wider movement, and it's an exciting time. There's never been a time, I think, quite like this in our history, at least in our known history, because science, psychology, philosophy, and spirituality and theology are all sort of starting to tell the same story. It's maybe the first time ever that we're beginning to have a unified theory of everything. That's kind of a wild moment to be alive and to be working with people in service of them, So anyway, if you want to find out more about the Somatic School, you can go here to the Somatic School website, find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Substack. Believe it or not, we're actually not on Instagram after over 7 years, which is bizarre. But if any of you here are social media managers, get in touch with us, because we're looking for somebody to set up our Instagram account for the first time ever. It's a crazy thing. Make history for the Somatic School. If you'd also like to come to one of our intro events, we have these free introduction to body into coaching events. If you'd like to learn more about the training itself, that's a very informational event specifically about the course. If you've got questions about the training other than having a one-to-one call, that is the introduction to body image coaching, that one there. If you, other than having a one-to-one call, that's a great place to get your questions answered. And then if you want to speak more one-to-one, if you'd like to speak to a human being, there's a human being at the other event, but if you'd like to speak with somebody and really get into asking your questions and have that personal contact and attention, then this is the best way to do it. Book a call with one of our course consultants here. Okay, well, that brings us to the top of the hour. If anybody needs to leave, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you with us today. And for those of you who are staying on for after hours, let's get into it. This is our time to geek out. So would love to, say again, a big thanks to those of you who are joining us and have to go. Gratitude for your presence here. And for anybody staying, I'd like to open up again. Any reflections on the previous, on the breakout, any more reflections or questions that arose in that process? Alexandra, coming to you.
This is the question from the coach. From the coach, I guess that we can implement this exercise into a particular situation that occurs in our during our coaching session, when client is dealing with specific emotions, problems. Then we can on the spot apply this exercise, or we can also use it as a generic, basic kind of checking with them as well. What is your comment?
So, Alexander, let me just check I've understood the question then. So, are you asking, is this something that you would bring up in relation to something that happens in the session, or as just a check-in with the body, for example, in this way? Yeah? Did I get that right, Alexandra?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Two different approaches or uses.
Yeah. Well, having had that experience, what's your sense of that, Alexandra? What's your feeling on that, having had it a first-hand experience?
I would definitely use this in the first scenario, when we would like to process specific issue in their life.
Okay. And what has you say that? Like, what brings you to that kind of sense?
Because I know that people often struggle with dealing with their emotions, with awareness about that, and they lack, especially people who are mostly in their heads They are keen to analyze, to take problems intellectually, but not on a deeper level. And they have problems. Let's alone people, neurodivergent people, like autistic ones. I deal with them as well. So it's very difficult for them even to identify their emotions. So maybe teaching them this approach would help open a little bit more space for them.
Nice. Well, Alexandra, I would suggest that, especially you're working with people with neurodiversity.
With their partners usually, but
partners.
Sometimes we end up.
Great. Well, it's funny. We've literally just writing an article actually about, working with neurodiversity or young people or children, or working with people around more complex issues. Like the scope of this training here at the Somatic School these different demographics in particular populations might go beyond the scope of the training here. But if you already experienced working with those people, and this goes for anyone here, then that's great, because this work can complement and enhance and enrich the work that you're doing with them. So first of all, I just wanted to mention that that article should be coming out very soon. And in response to your question there, Alexandra, I think, follow your instincts and experiment. We always adopt an experimental attitude. One thing I will mention for this particular approach is, remember, it's supportive self-touch. So what we're working with here and the message it has for the client, it's these moments where something is emerging that has a kind of cohering or organizing or nourishing effect on the client, their own contact. So therefore, the message that would be received by the client's own body to themselves there would be likely something of support and resource and capacity building. That's important here, that we're using this skill for that purpose, so that we are helping to build capacity to sort of help clients embody and integrate these resources for themselves. So typically, that's why I say it often happens after a shift has already occurred. You mentioned kind of working through challenging experiences. Typically, once a shift has occurred and now they are connected to a resolution or a solution or a completion, it's in that moment that this becomes particularly powerful. And that's actually exactly where we want to be using the skill. Hence the supportive self-touch. And it's all about building capacity in that regard.
Thank you. It's helpful. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Alexandra. Awesome. Sweet message from Genevieve. And anyone else got anything, questions, reflections? Anything at all? We'll maybe go for another 3 minutes or so. After hours.
Can I hop in?
Absolutely, Katie. Yes.
Something I think before actually doing the practice, and I've done something similar, but not the sort of verbal sense of it before, which I really, really liked. I really sort of enjoyed that aspect, the sort of invitation to reflect on what might this touch be saying to you. And I think before doing it, I might have thought I probably would have done it really quite close to the end of the session. But actually, my experience of doing it was that although for the person who was being the client, there was this real comfort about it, there was also a bit of a discomfort that came up of actually that permission of receiving that moment, of receiving comfort. And so I guess what it brought up for me is like, don't leave it right to the end of the session, because actually it could bring something up that then just kind of I need to just create space for and bring safety to. And if necessary, we hold it for another session, but so that there is that sort of safe transition into the rest of their day. And I think without going through the experience of actually being able to workshop it, I don't think I necessarily would have thought of that. So it was really helpful that we got to actually go and do it in breakout rooms. Because it just brought a bit more insight for me. Thank you.
Brilliant. Beautiful, Katie. Such rich insight there. I love that. There's such value in being the client and obviously practicing as coach in an environment like this, which is a kind of a laboratory setting where you can kind of try things out, see what happens, and then learn these lessons that you take into your practice. I think what you're speaking to is something really important here. Yeah, Dol, just in maybe a few minutes we'll be wrapping. What you're speaking to here is really important, because in the course here, what we do is, this is part of supported self-touch, is one way at which we can do what we call embodied integration. There's embodied integration, and then there's conceptual integration. And embodied integration will always come typically towards the end of a particular experience, like I just mentioned to Alexandra, right? Some sort of resolution, solution, insight, awareness. On that side, like, some embodied integration is really important. It often gets skipped and missed, and actually that's the neuroscience would suggest that that would be we want to be really taking time to integrate at that point. But then what will follow that always is conceptual integration. And so you've got the embodied integration. You want to leave ample time for that integration to take place. And then conceptual integration is then, we'll just kind of just talk and co-regulate and integrate further what's just happened, but in more of a meaning-making way, more of like a sense-making in a broader sense of the word. And the conceptual integration will take place for maybe like 5 to 8 minutes, maybe sometimes more, but probably that's about it. And that's kind of, that's kind of bringing us towards a closing. And that's quite characteristic of coaching, as distinct from some other helping professions, which is that in coaching, we really do endeavor to kind of leave the client better off than we found them, in a sense, right? Anything can happen, and it's not our responsibility, solely our responsibility, to do that. It's a co-creative, collaborative process. But we do want to close the session with a sense of completion, at least for today, and at least for this session. And then, of course, there's things that they could carry forward from the session into their life. But there is that sense of kind of bringing things into a sense of completion and integration. So all of your reflections there, Katie, really speak to that principle there. And I have to say, one of the challenges we have for doing an hour-long event for the public like this, where we want to give you an experience, is that, haven't got long and can only do so much time. And it's a bit like Parkinson's law as well. Like, we could always have more time in breakouts, 100%. But I have to say that experience you've had and the insights you're coming away with are incredibly valuable. So I think that's beautiful. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. Katie, just maybe come back to you, though. Any reflections on what I've just shared there? Anything else? Final thoughts before, or all good if you want to? Yeah.
I think just that explanation of the embodied integration and the conceptual integration and the way that they sort of interrelate has just been really helpful. I think sometimes there's things that you intuitively or instinctively, but you haven't got language for them. And I always find it helpful to have language for, this is what's happening here, because it helps me piece it together. So yeah, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for the reflection, Katie. All right. I think that brings us time for today. You've seen there that Elena has shared once again her details to schedule a call, should any of you want to follow up with a call with Elena, one of our course consultants here. And in the meantime, I just want to say once again, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. Penultimate Somatic Shift series. Come along to the last one. It's kind of a nice follow-on from this one, so it's probably a good opportunity to kind of link these two skills for this one and the next one, should you want to. And if you want to, we'll welcome you gladly. In the meantime, take care. Have a good rest of your day, evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. And we'll see you again soon. Ciao for now. Bye, everyone.